What's up, guys, and welcome back to I want to say another video, Force of Habit, but to this live stream. We are live tonight with it's my biggest interview yet with the legend himself, Steven Kitsoff. I've been excited for this since the day he confirmed it with me. And yeah, before I carry on talking, because we've been talking off screen a bit, I thought we need to stop, otherwise we're going to keep going. So without further ado, the legend himself, Steven Kitsoff, welcome to Walking Toward G-Man. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. Thanks for having me. And it's an honor to be on your show.
No, thanks for joining us. I mean, it's been a crazy time, and it's been up and down with COVID and with your rugby schedule. So the fact that you're making this time for us, I honestly do appreciate it. And let's get into it. You've been around for quite some time. I mean, we can talk about the successes of your under-20 with the juniors, with Province, with the Springboks. Let's start where it all began. What excited you with the sport of rugby? Did you know it from day one? Did it come in the genes from the family? What brought rugby into your life, and how did you become the great legend that is Steven Kitsoff?
Yeah, to be honest, like when I was lighty in primary school, I was always the biggest, the strongest, and I mean, since primary school, I think it was under 8 or under 9. Going to rugby practice, just running over kids and scoring all the tries. I think that with the passion my dad had for the sport from his young days, just installed into me. And I mean, from that day, I can remember playing barefoot rugby and then just dominating. And I think the love of rugby just started there, and it just carried on and just became more and more of a passion.
Now, obviously, with you've been known in the world with, obviously, you stand out from the others with the legendary hairdo. I mean, have you been? Everyone's got their nicknames. Sorry, I'm seeing Ginger Ninja from a few guys. Skinny Brew Rugby, a friend of the channel. Spicy Plum. I mean, the Ginger Machine. Has that been throughout your career? Because if I know Sean Pollock from cricketing days, he's had it all his career. Have you had it that made you stand out from the others?
Yeah, I mean, nicknames has been part of my rugby career since day one, since school level. I mean, Royes, Roy Gevaar, Red Bull, all those names came through. And I mean, especially being in an all-boys school like Paul Roos, I mean, those nicknames tend to stick. And so, yeah, it's something that I got used to quite quickly, and I actually embrace it. So I like it when people comment on my hair, and actually... It's not a big thing for me, and I actually love it. Like the Causa commentary that named me Spicy Plum. It's something I love, and I embrace it to the max.
I can imagine. I mean, I never forget watching you play for Province. Now, most of my mates are all Province supporters, and don't go away or end the stream because I'm going to say I support the Sharks. But you've stood out since day one, and I've rated you since then. There's a clip that. My one buddy's on the stream now. He took of me secretly in the pub, and I was getting intense in the moment. You guys were playing, I think, England, and I said, "Come on, you Ginger Ninja! I think you just scored a try," and I went berserk. I put it on TikTok, more than thousands of views. So I've always had a very soft spot for you, and I know a lot of my mates rate you highly as well. And it's fantastic to see you getting into these positions where you deserve to be with the Springboks and all that. And obviously, coming up in the Springbok world, you've got the likes of massive footsteps to follow in. I mean, to come on for Beast must be quite something, but then also to be mentored by a guy like Beast. And I know, obviously, in Province, you would have had your guys who you role modeled and idolized. But what's it like coming on or playing alongside, whether it's on the bench or starting, and knowing that you've got a guy like the Beast with you to motivate you and boost you to continue doing what you do?
Yeah, no, I mean, Beast is an incredible human, and tell you a little story. When I was in school, in grade 10 or 11, I had a big poster of Beast actually above my bed. I mean, I think it was when he made his debut back in the day, and there was a big poster in I think it was the Sports Illustrated or SA Rugby Mag, and I put it out and I put it above my bed. And my dad always asked me, like, wasn't Osterrand always like your role model idol? I said, yes, he is. But I mean, have you seen how Beast plays? Like how he carries balls, how he tackles, how he scrums, and it was just incredible to watch him. And actually, in my senior high school years, actually having him as a role model, like someone who I want to play like one day, was incredible. And then getting the opportunity to play against him, first of all, I mean, played against him in 2012 Currie Cup final, where it was Beast, Bismarck, and Yanni against myself, Scarra, and Frans Malherbe. And that, I think it was 3 senior Springboks versus 3 lighties who playing their second year of Currie Cup, was just incredible. And like that whole game atmosphere building up to it was amazing. And then getting to the Springboks and having a mentor like Beast was incredible. I mean, his way of going day by day, and actually while he trains and how hard he works off the field, was just incredible to watch, and just learn from such a great inspiration was incredible.
Jeepers, that gives me goosebumps. I mean, you hear it in stories, and you dream it as a kid of saying you put the post up of your sports star, and you want to idolize and be like them, and then years later you make your debuts, and then you play alongside him. That's something special, and it's not everyone gets to do that. And credit to you for working hard to get to those positions and using them as idols to follow in. Now, obviously, Western Province, you've done amazing things there, and it's obviously been a dream growing up in the Western Cape for you. What was it like when you ran on the park in an iconic stadium like Newlands? And I mean, whether you love or hate the teams, I mean, there's no better crowd right now than Newlands faithful. I mean, they fill it up. It's passionate. It is determined. What was that feeling like, being able to run out on debut for Province? And then obviously you got there with the Springboks, but for the first time, knowing that, hey, my career is really shining right now.
Yeah, it was back in 2011. I made my debut for Province against the Sharks, and for the Stormers was against the Chiefs in Hamilton. And both those games will stick to me for the rest of my life. I mean, making my Stormers debut earlier the year was incredible. I was in the squad from the beginning of the year, but never got the opportunity to play. And on tour, went with the boys on tour, never made my debut yet. And I'll never forget, just before the game, Tiaan Liebenberg, one of my idols and mentors coming through the Province ranks, he told me what a big opportunity this is. And he actually said, like, this is probably the biggest moment, will be one of the biggest moments of your life, because if you dominate today and you have a good first game, you'll probably stay in the team for years to come. And I'll never forget, we come on to the pitch. There was 20 minutes left in the game, and it was my first ever scrum in a Stormers jersey. And Tiaan literally just said, "Listen, just stick with me. I'm gonna take my hooker on, you take your prop on, and we run with it." And as he said, it happened exactly the same. Fantastic. And that moment I'll never forget. And playing for Province and running out at a packed Newlands was incredible. Was probably, it's like those goosebumps you get from the passion and the vibe that's created from the Newlands faithful was mind blowing, to be honest.
That's phenomenal. And then, I mean, you made your debut around then, and then I think it was 2012, if I'm not mistaken, Province won the Currie Cup, and I think you were part of that team. Yeah,
2012 was actually a very good year for me. It's like we won the SA Under-20s earlier the year, and then later we played the Sharks in the Currie Cup final, and that was the Springbok front row versus 3 youngsters. And yeah, it was just incredible.
That's a thought. It's going against Springbok front row, 3 youngsters, go on and win the Currie Cup for Western Province against the Sharks. I mean, that's an achievement and a story you could tell. I mean, I think Busy and them were still playing for the Sharks in 2012, would have been. And I mean, to go up against those terrifying 3, I mean, that's unbelievable. And then once again, going against the Beast. So amazing achievements and highlights throughout your career. And I mean, going forward, obviously you've been around. I know you went to the top 14 and played a few games there for Bordeaux. Excuse me if I'm not getting pronunciation right.
Yeah, no, it's a town called Bordeaux. So it's Bordeaux Beg was the club's name.
I must say, when I heard the news that you were going there, I got nervous because I thought, oh, please, for the sake of all good things in rugby, we cannot have you playing for France. You need to stay home. And I remember saying it to a lot of people, but thankfully you came back and now you Springbok royalty. What was it like playing over in France? I mean, the conditions firstly are different. Your stadiums are different. Atmosphere and climates, I mean, everything. What's it like compared to playing in Western Province and then all of a sudden going to Durban where the heat is hot as hell and the high felt? How did you adapt to that?
Yeah, so Bordeaux was a very like loved rugby kind of town. So the crowd and the vibe that they created in the stadiums were a lot similar to what they did, what they get right at Province and at Newlands. So it was like it's like playing at home. It was like just in a maroon jersey, and so yeah, there was an incredible rugby town, and they absolutely loved rugby and all the players that was involved in the club. So that was amazing. It was quite tough in the first couple of months, actually trying to learn the language and
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so understanding what everything like the rugby calls and the way the coaches actually work with the players was something to get used to. But the team itself and the characters we had some great international rugby players like Sako Kepu was there, Adam Ashley Cooper was there,
Sure.
Ian Madigan, who played for Ireland, fly-off was there. So we had an incredible team and an incredible culture at the team, which was amazing. But it was just literally getting used to the language and sometimes the cold and wet conditions. But otherwise, it was an incredible experience.
I can only imagine that, and especially playing in a country like France that's quite well known and continues to improve and has had its moments of where the team's not played well, but now they seem to be coming up. So getting experience there, it just continues to grow and give you experience as an international type player as you build up to go tour there in the future. So those are amazing achievements, and then to also experience with the likes of, as you say, Adam Ashley Cooper. It's phenomenal to move and grow, but that was the one question, was the language barrier, because I remember talking to Sarah Pretorius about last year about it and adapting to conditions. And obviously he played in Wales, but you get the opportunities to meet and play and judging to the culture of a team that are a little bit different to what maybe we experience. I mean, for guys to come overseas or down here is obviously different because of our Afrikaans language. You got Xhosa. I mean, we've got 11 languages in this country, so it's must be also intimidating. But on that note, talking about overseas and playing teams, and you would have experienced a lot, I have to ask this question because a few guys have. Is there any Irish descent in your family line? The blokes have been asking from Ireland, so I had to give that one to them.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what exactly comes from. To be honest, it's just me and my dad, and on my mom's side, a sister that's got red hair in the entire family.
I mean, my favorite sporting stars are already at you in rugby, and then we got Sean Pollock. I mean, I grew up idolizing the man, and it's just there's something about erotic in sport with that, but it's amazing stuff. Now, obviously, Steven, it's been a crazy time. And before I get into the Springbok career, let's just backtrack to, obviously, what we've all been experiencing with the whole COVID pandemic and having to adapt. Obviously, 2020 was a year where we were quite excited to see the Boks come back and continue the phenomenal performance of the World Cup, which we'll get to. But then the Tri-Nations going forward. How was the camp feeling when obviously you guys are eager to play, but due to the regulations and ruling, you were asked to stay down and we'll play our leaves. How's the preparation going from that with Rassie and Jacques in order to prep for the biggest tournament? It's probably next to the World Cup with the British and Irish Lions, and not having had game time, but knowing that this is the future and adapting to it.
Yeah, I think it was difficult. If you think back in the beginning of 2020, when Super Rugby kicked off, and our well South African teams actually did in the Super Rugby. I mean, we went a couple of games unbeaten. Sharks did really well. Bulls did really well. Teams. It was so exciting to actually come off that World Cup in 2019 and into a Super Rugby and building up to that incoming series of Scotland and Georgia, and then going into the Tri-Nations to actually play against the best in the world again. And actually defending our number one title was something that everyone looked forward to. And then with COVID and all the regulations putting a massive halt on it, and not being able to travel overseas to go play rugby was tough. And I think Rassie and them actually made a very good decision in not going, because the All Blacks and Australian teams were playing much earlier than us, so their game fitness would have been, I mean, miles ahead of us. So it was a big call, but I think it was the right one in defending our number one title, so we can actually get the group together coming up for this year's British Irish Lions and actually start working towards that. But yeah, I think in preparation, I haven't been doing much, but I think the management and staff have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get ready. We actually had that green versus gold match earlier the year, or late last year, which was actually a nice game where everyone involved in the Springboks, everyone who's possibly going to be involved with the Springboks, got together and actually prepared as a team to actually start getting to know each other and learn from each other.
Sorry, guys, I disappeared. My internet went funny on me, but I see I'm back here. The joys of South African internet. It is crazy. But anyway, we're back. Definitely. And also, on that note, with the whole waiting and all that stuff, how was it for when, I have to ask, because obviously it sucked that we had to wait, but we understood it. But when you saw teams like Argentina, who hadn't played rugby in quite a number of months, probably a little longer than us, and then coming in, making history, beating the All Blacks, which was probably one of the greatest matches I've seen in a hell of a long time. Did that give you guys a sense of an itch and a time to, like, say, should we have, or are we happier? But now we want to get onto the field even more.
Yeah, I think that that Argentina All Black game was incredible. It was probably one of the best. Pablo Montero was a superstar, and he actually he single-handedly bullied the All Blacks. But it was tough. It was tough knowing that we were not playing, but also they can go and beat the All Blacks. And me personally, I was itching to play, but I also knew the Rassie and Jacques and they made a call, and I back it, and it's their decision is final, to be honest, when it comes to the management of the Springboks and what's the best for the SA Rugby.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that's what excites me more, is when we approach the year. Okay, obviously everything's up in the air at the moment with COVID. But once we get those jerseys on and you guys run out and you start winning again and silencing those negative critics, that is going to be the day I'm going to go, well, we're going to go, told you so, be patient. Because, we've got the odd supporters that are a little bit salty because we're still number one and all that stuff. But we'll prove it to them and show, because we're still training. We're still playing rugby. Before we get on to the next topic, shout out to Chris White. Thanks for joining. He sent a super chat. He says, I know he is, but he also stated, massive Western Province player. He was at all of the pool stage games in Japan, and he says, well done to you, Steven, on the success. I mean, what a year 2019 was for you guys. I mean, jeepers creepers. I mean, the build-up of it, we've seen so many things being said, but when we hit 2019, we got the rugby championship for the first time in so long. and the build up from there to the World Cup. I mean, if we think of where we were like 4 years before that, or 3 years before that, we were at our lowest in the rankings. The success story of Rassie and Sia and you guys who've built up the team. I mean, that must be something that must still float in your mind every single day, knowing that what you guys had achieved and how far you came to get to where you were in 2019.
Yeah, I think all credit goes to Rassie, Jock, and the management, and the way they prepared the team, and the team selection they made, and picking the type of game plan and the players to suit it 100%. So all the credit goes to them, and they had a vision and they worked towards it. And I mean, you could see it every step of the way. The goal was to go into the World Cup in Japan and actually lift the trophy at the end, and everything we did was just geared towards that. So there was an incredible experience and journey to achieve that goal and milestone in our lives.
I mean, watching the phenomenal Chasing the Sun documentary, I mean, if you didn't have tearful moments in that documentary, you're not human, because it was absolutely phenomenal, and it gave. I mean, in a year that so much was taken from us in 2020, to have that documentary relive us and ignite us with the passion of how strong South African audiences and fans and how far we came is remarkable. I mean, going back to obviously the moment when I think it was a draw against the All Blacks, knowing that there's a chance we could do it. I mean, it was phenomenal stuff. The mind game of Rassie, of when he sent a second team to play Australia and Argentina, and then the big boys. The fact that he still did that, and it was called that, they weren't really second or whatever. It was one hell of a phenomenal team that just united and created such historic moments to win that rugby championship.
Yeah, I think the plan that Rassie and them came up with, going into that Tri Nations and actually going back-to-back victories, or trying to get back-to-back victories in Wellington. He said it from the beginning. We're going with two teams, and I think that's just the quality and the depth of the squad we had. It was the guys could slot in any moment in a Springbok jersey and actually represent the team as if they're the best in the country, and that's just the quality of the players we had. So yeah, all credit to Rassie, and we knew how big that game was. So we knew it's going to be a short turnaround, traveling from Joburg to Wellington, and actually be as ready as possible. And he made the call of, let's have these two teams, and we get the one team early so they can climatize and be ready as possible for All Blacks.
And talking on Rassie now, watching him in the documentaries, obviously we got to experience it from those documentaries of how he was as a motivator and just a coach who really encouraged blokes to the full. And I've always believed, your coach needs to know the game, but it's that motivation, encouragement. I mean, that must have really impacted you going forward, is knowing that someone like that motivating you with Jacques and the whole plan that they had, and how you guys move forward. That must be something. It's another memory, an accolade that you can take with you, knowing that a guy like Rassie Erasmus had led you guys and taught you guys. I mean, what was that motivation like, listening to him talk? I mean, we're just watching it from the TV. We're not sitting there listening to him. I mean, it must be an experience.
No, 100%. No, they're so clued up about the game and know exactly what they want from the team. So they're very straightforward and to the point when it comes to decision making and game plan. So I mean, they didn't have to do much motivational talking. It was just all about like how we want to play and what are we going to do on the field. And him and his management team was on the ball, and they knew exactly what they wanted from the guys and trained and drilled it into us.
And then the motivation for, obviously, the build-up. I mean, we're talking 2019, the Rugby Championship, and now we get to the greatest moment of South African rugby history, was approaching that World Cup. I mean, there were some that said we couldn't do it, obviously, after New Zealand. People lost the type of motivation for it. And then there were some who were just still diehard and knew it. And I mean, there was just something about 2019 team that I thought we're going to do it. We're going to silence these critics. I mean, All Blacks was a tough one, but the build up to that World Cup, and I mean, Rassie stating a few times, we're going to win this. I mean, he must have physically drilled that into you guys and motivated you guys to have gone forward. Walking on the pitch to Japan, obviously in the warm-up game, and then knowing you were here, it's time to shine. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean that warm-up game against Japan was quite a big and emotional one for most of the team, because there was still a lot of guys who were involved in that loss in the previous World Cup, so that was still fresh in the back of our heads, and the guys were, I couldn't describe it in words, and how motivated and emotional the Oaks got before the game to prove a point, because I think they were talking about releasing a movie on how Japan beat the Boks, and I mean that was just, I mean, that one line actually changed our whole mindset of we would just want to play rugby to actually we want to honor these Oaks, and that's
there you go.
and that's, you could actually see it in the game and how physical the Oaks got. You could see it like in the passion in B's eyes and Malcolm and these Oaks who big guys, but actually softies off the field. But you can see how dangerous and motivated it was for that specific game.
And I mean, the media never let us forget it. I mean, like you said, the movies and all that. It was the talk of the town, and I think when we hit them in, was it the semis? I mean, people were still quarterfinals. Thank you. People were still talking about it and saying, "Oh, are they gonna choke, or are Japan gonna do it?" And I mean, we just completely outplayed the guys. And I mean, credit to Japan; they made history and they deserve all of it, and they hosted the World Cup. But I mean, that must have been for those guys who obviously were a part of the World Cup in 2015 when we lost. It must have been a good weight off their shoulder. Now we can move forward, and meeting them again when we got them for the quarters. Was their thought process of, "Oh, we're back here again," or because of that warm-up game we had moved on?
Yeah, I think because that warm-up game was something that needed to happen, and after that warm-up game, we put that 2015 loss behind us, and we just focused on the quarterfinals. We knew exactly the type of game plan they want to play, the type of brand that Japan is known for, and we came up with a plan as a group to how we're going to nullify them, and actually it played out like a storybook. I mean, that week in Japan was quite tough. I mean,
Yes.
you're playing against the host country, where they were the friendliest people in the world. That the Japanese people just all of a sudden turned on you and made life difficult. But I mean, after that game, after a good win, and I think the respect came back, and we can just go on and play the rest of the World Cup.
And we overcame all the mind games that they played. I mean, the Wi-Fi passwords, reminding you guys of back then, and obviously a lot of other things that the fans did to try and get us. And the fact that we overcame that, it just shows, again, credit to you guys and the management for doing it. Now, before we get to the final and how that feeling would have been, I've got to ask this question because I know a lot of people wondering, what's it like going up against one of the best teams in world rugby over the past decade, the All Blacks? I mean, but we talk about it a lot. Obviously, South Africa and New Zealand have a phenomenal rivalry, but being able to be a part of that history and a part of those games and be able to walk on the field. First one is obviously, what's it like? And two, what are those chaps like off the field? Because I'm sure you've had the interaction with these guys from Super Rugby and all that. And just with the All Blacks, what's it like playing against them and then obviously being around them afterwards?
Yeah, so I think all credit to New Zealand. They're number one. They were number one for decades, or a decade for a reason, because the way they play, the way they prepare for games was incredible. And to be honest, they a very nice group of guys. It's easy to have a chat and a beer after a game with them. Off the field, they extremely nice, but when you come on that pitch, it's a different story. And all credit to their mentality and the way they want to play. It's if you want to beat the All Blacks and I'm a big believer in it. You have to hate them, and you have to hate them for 80 minutes on the field. Otherwise, they're going to run over you. And I think that's the mindset we always had against the All Blacks is you have to hate them, you have to hit them hard, you have to bully them. Otherwise, they're just going to do what they want with you. And it's an incredible team, but there's a certain way to play against them. And I mean, we've actually been getting it right at patches through the last couple of years.
We've definitely come a long way since 57. No, I don't want to remind everyone, but I mean, the fact that we've come back is just remarkable, and how we're getting more competitive with the guys and all that. What's it like in the haka? I mean, that must be a once in a lifetime moment, obviously experiencing that haka after passionate anthems, and then you got to face these guys going at you. I mean, it must be incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's actually like a childhood dream come true, like facing the haka for the first time. And the first time I faced the haka was in Cape Town, and it was so incredible how loud the crowd was that you could not hear all the words they were actually chanting. So, I mean, they were singing and going crazy, but you could actually you can't hear what they're saying because of how loud the crowd is on the outside. So that was incredible, and I mean, and vice versa. When you play against them in New Zealand, they've got the mics in front of them, blaring all over the speakers. So no, it's just incredible. You get goosebumps and standing in front of them, and it actually brings out a bit of motivation to actually take these out on.
I can imagine. I mean, we watch it on TV, and when the South African crowds, I know some countries don't like it when people do that, but I get goosebumps when you hear the olays and the singing and the chanting just to drown them out. But facing it must be another thing, going at it. Now, obviously, COVID again. We've had Super Rugby unlocked. We've had Currie Cup. It's been a crazy time of how we've arranged, but credit to SA Rugby for getting them up. How have you felt the tournaments have gone? And I must say, and also especially because Nick Mallett was obviously on media the other day saying South African rugby isn't where it should be and all that stuff. But a lot of people have come out in defense for South African rugby and saying, well, to play with no crowds is a hell of a different factor. And then obviously you're playing in summer where you're so used to playing in winter conditions. I mean, go to Durban and you're playing in the heat up there or the Highveld. It must be madness, and adapting to that. So there's a lot of challenges. How have you guys adapted to all of that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, since Super Rugby Unlocked kicked off, we knew we were going to have a lot of challenges with there being no crowd, with playing in extreme heat or playing in Highveld where you can't breathe. We knew there's going to be a lot of challenges, and the team actually adapted quite well. To be honest, like Currie Cup was probably not the best we've ever seen. Probably not the best Currie Cup we've ever seen, but still the motivation and energy that the players that was involved in this Currie Cup brought in these tough times was incredible to see. I mean, it was still playing against the Bulls at Newlands was probably still one of the toughest games of the year, and playing against the Lions in Ellis Park it's extremely tough. I mean, you can't breathe for 80 minutes and playing rugby like that. So a lot of credit goes to the players involved this year. I mean, the amount of energy and vibe that actually brought in this uncertainty of a time. I mean, never knowing if a game is going to get cancelled due to COVID cases or there not being any crowds. Guys still pitched up and actually tried their best, which was incredible.
Yeah, and I think spot on, and a lot of credit needs to be given to these guys who have had to adapt in these confusing situations. I mean, like games getting cancelled. I mean, it all plays around mentally on the players because you're pumped and ready to play. For example, a few weeks ago, Province Sharks, and then the COVID hit the camp and the game was cancelled, and then you meet 2 weeks later in the semi-final. Things could have gone differently 2 weeks ago to opposed to this past week, and to having to adapt to that must be a hell of a challenge, and also frustrating because then you're asking yourself, if we had played that time 2 weeks ago, would the result have been different this past weekend, kind of thing?
Yeah, if this game happened, say in the round robin stages, and we lost due to bad penalties, or it's something we would have changed going to a semi-final the week later. So it definitely plays a massive role on the guys' mentality. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. The first time we met the Sharks was in the semi-finals. To be honest, we didn't pitch up. We had so many opportunities just to actually convert field possession into points, but we didn't, so we lost the game. But yeah, it definitely plays on the guys' mentality, not being sure if the game's going on, if how much preparation is needed, training schedules are completely out of sync because Mondays we can't train as a team before we get our COVID tests done. So there's a lot of factors that played a massive role in the weekly prep for any given game. This whole Currie Cup and Super Rugby Unlocked.
Now, unfortunately for Province, the Currie Cup is now over, but next stop is to focus on the Rainbow Cup and the meeting up with Pro 16 and all that jazz. It's been talked about so often in the media about South African teams going north. You've played Super Rugby for so many years now, and now we're going north.
Sorry, Gareth, you broke up a bit.
Oh, wait, I'm back. Sorry. The climates and everything. How is that? How's the preparations going for the North and the changes of what we're going to expect playing teams like your Leinsters and your Munsters and all the teams in the Pro 14?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be completely different compared to Super Rugby. We'll have to change our game plan completely. As Province, we like to run with the ball. We got a good defensive system. We got strong set piece. But now all of a sudden, you need a good tactical kicking game. I mean, watching the game on Saturday, Leinster Munster, there was kicks the whole game, and all the teams focus on is one-off runners and chase lines and how their wings chase and the certain kicks they kick. It's going to play a massive role in our preparation for rugby up north. So I think there's going to be a lot of change we need to make at the province, and it's not probably going to be the most attractive rugby, but we'll need to find a way to play that tactical game and still come up with good try scoring opportunities and actually being able to win those big northern teams like Munster and Leinster.
And now, obviously, Super Rugby, the summit history in the past with what we've achieved, it's just a historic time with Sanzar. What are the guys' feelings towards it? Are you going to miss Super Rugby, or is it just okay? We've moved on from that phase. Now we're focusing on our next chapter and going forward.
I definitely think teams are going to miss Super Rugby a lot. I mean, it was quite an exciting brand of rugby. It was exciting to watch. It was all, like going for a 4-week tour to Australia or New Zealand was a highlight in a lot of rugby players' lives while playing Super Rugby. So definitely going to miss the Super Rugby tournament. But in the same breath, quite excited for this new chapter, playing up north, playing in the time zones not being too much of an issue.
Yes.
I mean, the games being played on TV on normal hours of the day. So that's quite exciting to get the viewership up a bit. Hopefully people get involved and enjoy that brand of rugby and enjoy watching their favorite clubs. So yeah, going to miss Super Rugby, but quite excited for what's ahead.
It's a whole new door that's going to be open for you guys as players and us as fans to experience the different opportunities of what it's like playing against teams in Wales and Scotland and Ireland and in Italy as well. I mean, it creates something different, and experiencing that. I mean, I think one game I'm excited for is when either Province Sharks, Bulls play against teams like the Leinster or Munster or Scarlets, even Glasgow Warriors. I mean, we've got so many players that are playing overseas right now and really raising the South African flag high, seeing the talent. What excites me right now, and this is on another level, is seeing how many players are coming back home because of the fact that they've all gone overseas. But now our teams are going north. Now we can come back home to where we once were and started our careers. That for me is what exciting, because it's always nice to see you've grown up in the Western Cape, played for Province. Now Province or Stormers are going overseas to continue something, and now some guys might come back. I mean, that must be a great feeling, knowing following your players with them, type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of young guys don't get opportunities playing for Stormers, and then they go overseas and create a good lifestyle there. But now with us going back to, or going up to the north for the first time now, you see big players coming back like Francois Hoggaard.
Yes.
When is back at the Bulls, Dwayne's back. So it's awesome to see those Oaks coming back into South African provinces. So it's just going to strengthen the teams again and actually make our competition among the 4 unions that's going into the Rainbow Cup so much more competitive. So that's just great for South African rugby and the competition as a whole.
And what excites me too is that I think it's chairman of Pro 14 saying that there's an opportunity for the SA teams to qualify for the Champions Cup, and the Challenge Cup. I mean, those are massive opportunities for South African teams to really put their name out there. And obviously, you're not champions of Europe, but you're still champions of that type of rugby. I mean, to get those opportunities are huge, to get our boys out there and noticed. It's going to be an amazing experience for the players.
Yeah, I mean, if one of the South African franchises gets into the Champions Cup, it's you playing against the best of the best. You're playing against the top Premiership sides. You're playing against the top 14 sides. So
yes.
It's such an incredible competition, and I was lucky enough when I was in Bordeaux to play 2 seasons in the Champions Cup, and I mean the amount of talent and quality players there are in that competition was just incredible to experience and be part of.
And I mean, from a tourism point of view, even for South Africa, obviously the tournament's still early and new, and there's still a lot of things that are going to happen. But for the opportunities past the COVID days to have these guys come down to South Africa is massive opportunity for tourism and growing the country, but also getting them an opportunity to come play us. And for us to host those guys is going to be awesome, because there will be times when we're playing in cold, unbearable conditions, but now they have to come down to our end of the world for the coastal sides and really face that. So to play them in our home is going to be awesome as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system if one of those European sides comes and plays Ellis Park in the middle of December. So, no, it's going to be quite interesting. I think it's also going to have two styles of rugby. You're going to have the dynamic running rugby down on the coast side or the Highveld, but when you go up north, you're going to have the wet set piece orientated forward dominant rugby plan and kicking game. So it's going to be 2 different strategies for where you're playing in the world.
And then I know you might not know the answer to this, but for the future for South African rugby, obviously with us going north, is there potential, or do you see, or would you want potential for South Africa still keeping a link with our Super Rugby friends over there in New Zealand and Australia, as well as Argentina? Possible smaller cups maybe that could be hosted where we can see maybe not the Stormers, but Province playing or interlinking, and obviously teams like the Cheetahs who miss out, creating a Super 8 tournament there was a rumor of. I mean, opportunities like that, would you guys be obviously keen for that, to move around from north and south if it was able to happen?
Yeah, I think definitely it's, I mean, Super Rugby playing against New Zealand sides, measuring yourself against the best was the fun part of Super Rugby. And if it's possible to do something where you can actually half of the year you go up north, other half you play the New Zealand sides, or more domestic competition where, say, Province plays against a ITM Cup like Canterbury or one of those clubs, would actually be quite interesting to see the where we fit in, like in in talent-wise. Like, say, all the Springboks are gone, so now you got the province side compared to all their All Blacks are gone compared to Canterbury. To see actually what would happen in a game like that.
No, I mean, that's the thing. And I think there's so much opportunity for that. And as I lead into the talk about the British and Irish Lions tour that could hopefully happen still this year or next year or whatever the talk is, we'll get into that. What's the thoughts of finally World Rugby or having our own guys created a Sanzar type Lion squad? I mean, I think it's time we get on the bandwagon and start doing something like that. I mean, just imagine being alongside the Owen Franks. I mean, you guys in the props, or Brody Talik behind you with Eben. I mean, crikey. I mean, Dwayne Vermeulen alongside. I mean, it would be amazing. Don't you think it's time we have a Sanzar Lions version?
Yes, I saw it on Instagram the other day for the first time, and I was actually, like, when I saw it, I got quite excited because I think it'll probably be one of the best, like, Lions tours, or not Lions tours, but Sanzar tours, whatever. It'll be so lucky, and actually playing touring with those folks for a couple of weeks will actually be so much fun, and the amount of experience that guys will pick up will be incredible.
I mean, because we're talking about, and I mean, Bill Beaumont, the chairman of World Rugby, keeps saying the global game, how are we going to bring it together? I mean, for me, there's nothing better than doing that. I mean, if you have like a tri-series between the Sanzar version, then the British and Irish, and you've got the Pacific Island teams who have so much heart and soul and deserve credit as well. I mean, just imagine a trio tournament like that every 2 or even 4 years. I mean, it will definitely spice rugby up and get the game out there. And like you said, to get the experience of playing alongside those guys would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, or even touring the north with the Sanzar 15.
There we go. I mean, going to challenge all the provincial teams, going to challenge like England or Ireland. I mean, I'd love to see Sanzar versus England. I think that would be a good one. And battle them out and silence a few of the haters and critics. But playing overseas, we've all got them. Ones you either love or hate, and we feel the same, I suppose, for certain teams. But I think that would be an awesome opportunity to create the global game and get rugby out there, because, you know, I still believe that rugby has so much more to offer the world. I mean, if you look at the top highest paid sports, I mean, rugby doesn't feature in the top 10, and it's time we get them out there. But doing these type of global things and experimenting and getting the names out there, that's why I'm so excited about the investment with the Sharks. And I hope, for the sake of sport, more and more companies invest in our SA teams, because there's potential. You guys deserve it. You put so much on the line, and to get the names out there of SA rugby. And now that we're going north, we've been south, now we're going north, just creates more opportunity for us to get noticed.
No, 100%. No, I agree 100%. I think the Sharks probably the first team to actually go private and get that outside deals going, and actually being able to put the money where the mouth is, and actually building a team and build a culture that can win cups. And just honestly, I hope all other South African franchises follow suit, where we take it into private equity and actually put as much money as we want into it, and actually build up teams as we see fit.
No, exactly. And then on that, because we're talking all the Lions stuff, British and Irish Lions Tour 2021, obviously up in there right now because of COVID. We're not sure of the situation down here in South Africa. There's talk of it being postponed to 2022. From a tourism point of view and for the country's sake, I think that might be the better decision, unless something positive happens. To play with our crowds, I mean, we're completely missing the idea of the Lions Tour, of all those guys coming here, and the growth of the brand in itself. And then I think a lot of people, and I speak to the 3BOD rugby group, who are good friends of the channel, and they themselves are in Ireland and the UK, all saying that it can't go to the UK. The whole point, it's called the Lions Tour, so it needs to be toured here.
Yes.
So I mean, I think you as a player wouldn't want to play this series with no crowd. You would rather have it. But now to wait another year is obviously frustrating when you've been patient for so long. But what's your thoughts? Are you hoping it goes ahead? I mean, I know it's a tough question, or should we wait till we've got this thing under control if we ever do get it?
Yeah, to be honest, So to be honest, hoping it goes ahead in 2021, but with vaccines going out and people actually being able to attend sporting events and actually getting the stadium packed to the top, would be incredible. I mean, I can't imagine it being a British Irish Lions tour where you play them at Twickenham. It's you have to play them in Ellis Park, Loftus, Greenpoint. That's what makes sense. That's where you want to play them. You don't want to play them in their own backyard. So if it happens in 2021, that'll be amazing. If it happens in 2022, that'll be just as fine, because I mean, it just needs to happen, to be honest.
And how's the build-up going for that? Obviously, we're playing our provincial levels. I mean, and I'm sure the coaching staff and management are all talking to you guys to get you through it, because obviously we haven't had game time. I know we got a few tests lined up before that. How is the process going and the preparation for this massive tournament?
Yeah, so us as players, we've just been focusing on our franchises. But I think there's a lot of work being put in behind the scenes from Jacques and his management team. So probably pretty soon we'll start meeting as a group as soon as we have more details about when the tour is happening. But for now, the teams are just focusing on their franchises. We still have daily or weekly talks with the coaching staff and on our personal games. But I think the coaching staff is doing all the work so far.
Fantastic. And then the moving forward, because obviously last time you guys played as a team, you were under the leadership of Rassie Erasmus. Now obviously he's director and Coach Jacques is now head coach. Now obviously you've been around him. How do you see everything going around? Will it be the same, or will Jacques bring his own little twist to it? Because we obviously want a great momentum. And the fact that Jacques and Rassie are like sidekicks that know each other so well, and he's still there, and Jacques is there, I think that's great for SA Rugby, and I think we're just we move forward, growing stronger.
Yeah, as you said, I think with Rassie still as director and Jacques as head coach now, I think things will be very similar. I mean, Jacques does bring his own flavor a bit, but like I think the way they're going to treat the players, coaching style, tactics are going to stay very similar, just depending on who we're playing.
No, fantastic. And I think that's what we're all looking forward to the most, is seeing the boys back in green and gold. And as we talk about green and gold, now we're going to go back to World Cup. I know I'm going a bit Democratia, but the semi-finals, we played against Wales. It was a tough one. But the way we overcame it and got it right was phenomenal. We made it to the big final. The preparations for that final, the build-up for that final. I mean, after England had done what they did to the All Blacks, South Africa were all of a sudden written off. There was no hope. It was England's World Cup. It's almost like they won the World Cup. Eddie Jones had done it. But one thing he didn't do was outclass the brain of Rassie Erasmus. And then South Africa came in to show why we were the best in the world. What was that build-up, that experience? And I mean, again, walking onto the park for a final, and obviously you coming on for the Beast and taking on, and then that end. I mean, that must have been, again, another moment which you just don't forget.
No, exactly. No, it was incredible. It was, I mean, that whole week building up, Wales was probably one of the toughest games at the World Cup. We knew they're going to be tough. They just don't go away. And I mean, Duke scored that brilliant try to put us ahead, and Francois lowered the turnover in the end to win the game for us. Was two magical moments of the World Cup. And then going into the final, we watched the game, the All Blacks game, England game, the night before we played, and we saw how good England was against the All Blacks, and the amount of confidence they had, and the amount of pressure they put on the All Blacks to actually make them not look as great as what they actually are. And there was a lot of confidence in that England team, and we coming off a very tough win against Wales, going into the final. So a lot of the preparation in that week was about the forwards and the way we want to scrum them and the way we want to maul them and how we're going to stop their momentum. And as we trained it played out in the game. And that was just incredible to be part of that experience and that whole build-up and atmosphere of that week building up to the final, and how everything just played out exactly as we planned it.
And then obviously getting your hands on the World Cup trophy. And then after that made headlines was the moment with you guys and Prince Harry, Fuff and his Speedo. That's famous. I mean, you were in it too. It made the world headlines to see South African rugby singing and happy again. I mean, that must also be coming home with that pride and that moment of bringing a country yet again together and united together as one. It must have been a special time to come home to.
No, 100%. Coming home, doing that trophy tour all through South Africa, just to see the happiness and the hope that we created in the people's faces, driving through the streets of Soweto, PE, East London, Cape Town, and just seeing the people, how happy they are to see the box with the trophy, it's an unforgettable experience, and just how people celebrated and were just living the box at that moment and not worrying about where they're going to get their next paycheck or worried about what's happening in South Africa, and just focusing on that bit of joy that we were able to create.
I mean, seeing what South Africa were doing as a country in a time that was quite tough, and what we've gone through and seen in the news, to be able to bring all races, all religions, disabilities, genders, the whole country came together. And I mean, that's something that we can all hold dear to our heart, and you guys for creating that. I mean, it just goes to show Mandela's quote, "Sport is the power to change the world and to inspire and unite." And we really saw that during that week when you guys returned. I mean, I think after it, I mean, you guys were obviously tired because you've just had crazy few weeks. Us as fans, and I think also buggered because of the emotion that happened. I mean, I remember going to bed that night after the final and even waking up, still emotional, Rick. Couldn't believe that happened. Watching the streams that were passed and how everything happened. I mean, you guys must have been just as buggered. But a great feeling, though, to have got everyone together.
No, 100%. It was.
Now, as we...
Yeah.
Yeah. As we get we're approaching the hour mark, I do not want to keep you for the whole night, although I could talk rugby for the whole night. Guys, I'll leave the floor to you guys in the comment section. I can see this chat has been going wild. Shout out to the mods for keeping everyone, and also to your patience. I want to say one at a time, but it's not going to work. Please understand we're not going to get to all of them because we know you're desperate, but let's get some comments out there. Right, here's one, LB. Gareth question, who was his rugby heroes growing up? So, who are your idols?
So, when I was very young, primary school, I looked up at players like Osurant. I mean, the way he carried the ball, the way he tackled, the way he scrummed was incredible. When I was in primary school, I just started playing prop, and they were incredible. And then as I got older, into high school, senior of high school, Beast became my next idol, and the way he came onto the scene, just playing his heart out, destroying people in front of him. So those were my two big idols growing up.
And what idols to have. I see we've got people from Scotland here showing their love for you as well. It's good to see. Skinny Brew Rugby, a legend also in the YouTube business. He said, Steven, do you think the lack of rugby was a blessing in disguise on your body? Could it maybe extend to your career? Or maybe extend your career?
Yeah, I mean, just before COVID, I had a serious pec injury that would have put me on the sidelines for 4 months anyway. And so I was very fortunate with going into the lockdown with the injury and actually being able to work out like all the other problems with my body, and actually going to rehab and trying to fix all the muscles I can. And so that was a bit of a blessing, not forcing to get back into rugby quickly, and actually I think it did probably prolong my career. We'll never know how long I'm still going to play, but
hopefully for many more years.
But it definitely helped me now towards the end of 2020.
On that note, actually, it's a good question I asked you. How did you guys cope with the whole, when we were in serious lockdown and all that stuff? I mean, we couldn't go to gyms, you couldn't do many things, you couldn't really get out. From rugby's contact sport, how do you keep that side of your body still moving or going and keeping the strength there? Because obviously when you get back to training and contact sport was back allowed, I mean, surely it's easy opportunity to create injuries like that, because it's been months since you've last been flattened by Sia Kolisi or any other bloke.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. I didn't have to do anything rugby physically wise, coming off an injury. But most of us just focused on cardio. Like most of us got training bikes and gym equipment. So we just trained indoors, cycled an hour a day and try and get the cardiovascular up. When we got back to training, I think we had about a 2.5 month, 3 month preseason where we slowly integrated contact drills again and running on the field, and like that the guys started picking up their contact conditioning, and I mean it was great. Since the first game, the Oaks didn't get injured from tackles or dislocated shoulders, so they were actually in great shape.
Jock has said a question, Kitsoff Easton, gaan jy Nieuweland miss? Obviously, it's a tough one saying goodbye to Newlands this past weekend.
Ja, Jock, definitief. Ek dink Nieuweland is al vir die laaste 10 jaar deel van my rugby loopbaan, waar ek gespeel het, waar ek groot geword het, waar ek geleer het om rugby te speel, om eerlik te wees. En ja, gaan dit definitief mis, en ek dink is 'n icon van 'n stadion, en ek dink die hele Suid-Afrika gaan mis.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Foo Fighter for Long says, what team are you most looking forward to playing in Pro 14? And he says, I'm guessing Munster, so you can smash Damien.
Yeah, so me and Damien are actually very good mates, and so yeah, I'm actually looking forward to play Munster and Leinster. I think they're probably the two top teams in the Pro 16, and so yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing either two of those teams or either one of those teams, and touring Wales, Cardiff, Scarlets, those teams as well. I think that they're playing quality rugby, and the international sides are just as good.
I mean, there's so much history over there in Europe with those phenomenal teams from the Six Nations, and obviously when you hit Champions Cup to get involved with the England sides and the French sides all around, it's going to be an amazing experience. This is an interesting one from Blizzard B. If not Province, which club would you play for?
Probably Marty's.
There we go. He's still keeping to Western Province. The loyalty's there. That's brilliant. Obviously, Archie is also in Munster, so that's a good one. Here's another one from Scott Brown. He says, favorite international team to play against, also hardest player to play against that you've played at.
Yeah, so there's two favorite international matches is against the All Blacks and against England. So England's always one of those tough games. You never know which way it can go. All Blacks is just pride and hatred on the field, not off the field, but just hatred and giving away everything. And then toughest prop I've ever scrammed against is Owen Franks. When I played against him the first time, Stormers Crusaders at Newlands, I was never scrummed like that in my life before, so it's probably one of the toughest players I've ever scrummed against.
Sure. And then Davin says, yeah, who inspires you the most among the coaching staff?
At Springboks. So
probably throughout your career, maybe.
Yeah. So probably some of the coaches that had the biggest impact on my career. from a young age is Matthew Proudfoot. He was my forwards coach when I was at the Stormers. I think a lot of my scrumming abilities are big thanks to him. And then Jock Ninova was my defensive coach when I was also at the Stormers for the first time.
There you go.
Yeah, he was incredible. He always said, like, you can be the biggest hitter in the game, but if you don't finish the tackle, you're not worth anything for the team. So that's something I live to today. I will rather chop Oak's legs before I actually try and smash him off his feet, because the chances of missing the tackle is so much bigger. And Rassi had a big impact. Alistair Coetzee had an impact on my life. And then currently at the Stormers, I think the whole management as a whole, just the way they work with the team, just the way they prepare and try and get the team as motivated as possible. A lot of credit to Dobbo, Darby, Norman, Rita, Gareth. I think the guys are doing exceptionally well.
And what's it like adapting from moving around? Obviously, you've had coaches that have moved up the rankings along with you, but going from, for example, Dobson and Province and Stormers, then you go to Rassi, who might have a different. How do you adapt to the different types of coaches you've been around? Even when you went over to France, maybe. I mean, that also to the different tactics and learnings and styles. What's that like?
Yeah, I think you quickly understand in what environment you're operating in. So at Province, it's much more relaxed. It's Province style rugby. We try and be exciting and try and play with flair. And then you get to the box where it's professional. You have to do a job. You have to represent your country, your people. So then it's that kind of atmosphere at the box. And then overseas in France was completely different to what I was used to in South Africa. It was coaches coaching in French. We only had one English coach, Joe Worsley, and he was probably the only I could relate to him. I mean, if there was any questions, I just asked him, and he was a defensive coach. So working with him was incredible. Getting his experience from when he was playing for England back in the day. So every team has a different atmosphere and environment around them, and I think the coaching staff create that and the vision there for the team going forward.
And let's get a few more before we end off. Scott Brown has said, how is South African rugby so physical? How do you guys train to become beast on the pitch? I've seen Duane van der Merwe at Edinburgh. He's capped for Scotland and he's destroying players in Europe. Good to see.
No, I think it's probably the amount of red meat we eat as children and biltong and droog.
Yeah, come on.
A bit of ether.
There we go. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And then Archie Adams says, loudest environment you've been outside SA?
Stadium was Twickenham was quite loud. The Wales Millennium Stadium, when they close the roof, it gets quite loud in there. And probably club-wise, loudest stadium outside of South Africa was Bordeaux Stadium. I mean, they had a band or like a group of people in the crowd who was hitting drums and just making noise, and it was just such a vibe playing in front of that, and you can't actually hear the calls because it's so loud in the stands.
I think JP's got a great one here. What advice would you give a young player aspiring to get far in rugby like yourself?
Yeah, I think probably it's difficult. It's I think rugby it's probably the one sport that where you need you don't have to be the most athletic or well-built person to succeed in the sport. I mean, there's rugby players for all shapes and sizes, but the bit of advice I would have for someone is rugby needs a lot of sacrifice. You can't expect to play good rugby when you're 18 years old, but you want to go dope every weekend. You have to sacrifice something to become good at the sport you love. So it's spending time in the gym, spending time on the field, doing your cardio, doing your conditioning, spending time behind the video screen, analyzing your game and actually sacrificing the things that you maybe like to do, but it's not great for you. Sacrificing that and actually spending the time crafting your sport and trying to become as good as possible.
And then, obviously, as one that's been asked a few times, this weekend, Currie Cup final, who have you got, the Bulls or the Sharks? Who do you think could win the 2021 Currie Cup, or 2020, sorry, Currie Cup?
Got the Bulls by 12.
Ouch. No comment. All right, crikey, now makes me even more nervous for this week. I'm not going to argue with the Springbok International. And then a few players from overseas teams that you perhaps admire and look up to.
Yeah, there's a lot of players all over the world. I mean, guys like Adi Savia, Bowden Barrett, all guys from England. It's Carl Sinclair. I mean, probably the best hands in the game. There's what's that hooker from England? Can't remember his name. Jamie Roberts who plays for Wales.
Yes,
there's so many quality rugby players that we play against. We play for the Springboks against that. There's so much time spent on analysis, just analyzing the game and trying to find weaknesses to actually try and outperform them. So, I mean, the world has so many talented rugby players, and to mention a few is actually unfair compared to the amount of talent there is in world rugby.
It's so true. And I mean, the fact that it's growing and growing, and we've seen these guys really stand out from the world. But what really gets me proud, and it hurts, seeing guys like CJ Standers and guys playing overseas, like Foo Fighter says, why do you think SA players are so good in the north, like Stander and all of them? Faf for Sale Sharks. Okay, luckily he's still Springbok. But I mean, it's so good to see the representation of SA overseas. Now, obviously, not everyone could play for the Springboks, so they go overseas and follow in the genes from the past. But it's really good to see the likes of CJ Stander overcoming barriers that were within South Africa to go play teams like Ireland and create history. I mean, it's really it does warm the heart to see our blood going overseas and making us proud by representing other countries. Although it's tough, but it's good to see.
Yeah, no, 100%, Gareth. I think CJ is probably a prime example for someone who struggled to make it in South Africa, or playing under like a Pierce Spies, or back in the day like a Pierce Spies, or Dwayne Vermeulen, or Warren Whiteley, and then actually going to Ireland and actually doing so well in the club since he gets chosen to represent the country. So it's incredible to see this African representation all over the world. I mean, you see it in America, you see it in Ireland, Wales, you see it in England. There's a South African player in every club. So it's incredible to see all this talent, South African talent all over the world, and actually representing their respective clubs and maybe countries, wherever they are.
No, spot on. Here's a good one. Damon again saying, how does Rassie take a loss? Is he calm with the team talk, or does he get straight to the point?
Yeah, he gets straight to the point, but in a calm way. So he's very straight to the point, and on analysis, he'll fix the mistakes we made on previous weekend. So they do a lot of homework while we tired and trying to sleep after a tough game. They'll sit in front of their laptops for hours and actually analyze the game and where we made mistakes.
Yeah, brilliant. And then Tian says here, does it feel a bit surreal captaining Western Province against your Springbok teammates like Dwayne or Lakanya?
Yeah, it's I mean, Dwayne was a senior.
Yeah, he was your captain too.
Yeah, when I joined the Stormers, he was a senior. He was always talking in the meetings, and he was just about to captain the side before he went to Toulon. But Dwayne is a massive legend. He's one of my very big mates, and being a captain against him, or being a captain against Lucanio, was such an incredible player. It's actually quite lacquer to if we have a good game, it's just a bit of pride, and then if we lose,
Yes.
it's your mate to beat you. So it's a bit of both, and I mean, it's always lovely to see those Oaks, even when you play against it.
And then, as we've gone over the hour, as very grateful for your time, I've got to ask this question. I've seen someone ask if you would be consider going to the WWE, but how do you think the Beast would do? I mean, the rumors were going the past few times if Beast would join the WWE. Do you think he'd kick those guys' backside to be the next champ? I think he will.
I think he will as well.
Yeah, I think so. No, you will. Well, Steven, I mean, I could sit here, talk all night, all day, but I don't want to keep you too much. I mean, it's been an absolute honor. I couldn't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day and evening with the loved ones to spend with us. Greatly appreciated. And I could only wish you all the best and success going forward. Obviously, Province are now, but now it's time for the Rainbow Cup. Springboks, everything. All the best. Keep going strong. And keep being you. I think that's the thing that everyone looks on the field is, like I said earlier, you stand out, but you inspire and create so much enthusiasm for these young stars. And I thank you for that. And I hope that we see you in that green and gold jersey for many, many, many more years to come.
Yeah, thanks so much, Gareth. It was so lekker talking to you and everyone for your questions. It was so nice, and hope everyone has a great evening.
Thanks, guys. That's going to do it. And thank you to Steven. Thank you to all of you for being a part of this phenomenal stream. Probably it is the best one I've had, and an absolute honor. I'm still buzzing. To everyone, to the moderators, Ryan, Wahoo Fitness, thank you for monitoring. To all my mates who have been watching as well and monitoring, thank you too. And you guys are legends. And to everyone for joining us tonight, it's been awesome. It's nice to have a chat with the Springbok. This is a first for me, and I'm honored to have had you guys with me. And Steven, thank you once again. Guys, have a great evening further. As usual, stay safe, never give up, and we will see you guys soon for more. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit that like button. Thanks so much for joining. Cheers, guys.